The lack of access to a quality education has had a detrimental effect on children around the world, especially those in developing countries. Did you know that according to the United Nations Development Program, over 113 million kids around the world are not enrolled in the schools? Did you know that according to UNICEF, over 2 million kids in Mali alone do not have access to education, and over half of Mali's young adult population is illiterate? This is a big problem because education is the fundamental stepping stone to guide a child to become a productive and responsible member of society. And we know that this is a monumental issue to overcome. Therefore, I propose a three-pronged solution, and the solution will involve changes to the status quo. Number one, and most important, is to reduce the cost of primary school enrollment, or even make it universal, meaning primary school enrollment could also be free. Malawi, a country in East Africa, employed this method, and they decreased the primary school enrollment fee to zero, meaning it's free. And what happened was Malawi saw a 51% increase in the number of students enrolled in primary school. And this definitely increases the number of students who have access to education. Also, to ensure effective learning outcomes, we must reform the current educational model, meaning we should add a financial literacy curriculum to most existing school systems, because when students leave school, they need to have had that effective education to know how to increase their money and know what to do with their money, because they have to figure out ways to steer clear of what I call the wandering devil of poverty. And when people have that effective education of the financial aspect, they'll be able to rise above the poverty line and be able to succeed from a financial standpoint. And third, which is also an important approach, is to increase the quality and number of teachers. Teachers are important because they're ultimately the ones who educate the children. And to increase the quality of teachers, developing countries have to invest more in the teacher training program, because it'll allow teachers to hone in on the teaching skills, and ultimately it'll trickle down and leave the children with a better education. To increase the number of teachers, what should happen is to establish a minimum wage for teachers in schools in developing countries, because it'll provide an incentive for teachers to work. And this is a three-pronged approach. So as with any approach, we'll need a measure of the effectiveness of the approach. So what we should do is have the proportion of students in primary school and the proportion of students enrolled at the end of secondary school, and to ensure that the approach is effective, the two proportions should both be high and relatively constant, meaning that students have stayed in school throughout the duration of the education. And second is to measure the proportion of students who are literate, who are defined as literate, and this would allow us to see the number of students that have access to a quality education. Thank you for listening.